Multiple massive Dodgers updates have dropped surrounding Kyle Tucker from multiple insiders. We now know what offer was made by the Dodgers and how their plan of attack is very different from that of the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Mets, the two other top suitors for Kyle Tucker in the sweepstakes. And we should only be hours or days away from Kyle Tucker's official decision. So we're going to be covering what Jeff Passan, Bob Nightengale, and multiple other insiders have said, as well as what we know to the extent of the Dodgers' offer to Kyle Tucker and how their plan is very different, but much smarter than that of the New York Mets and Toronto Blue Jays. So we're going to be covering that all here in this video, as well as how the Dodgers' addition of Kyle Tucker would really fit this lineup much better than these other teams involved. Now, before we do jump in to the news that we do have here today, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. And when you download Kalshi using the link below and enter the code DIGESTMLB, you'll get $20 when you trade your first 100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the US, and on their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, sports, elections, news, pretty much everything. They have you covered. Whether you're in California, Texas, any of the states across the country, Kalshi is live in all 50 states. And for sports fans, trading on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. And looking at the odds for the Baseball World Championship is what they have it labeled here, but the World Series, the Dodgers still lead this by quite a margin. And we know that Kyle Tucker would seriously increase these odds, and I think it's a fair trade to say yes for the Dodgers winning the World Series here, but also with Kyle Tucker's next team, the odds have shifted and the Dodgers fell to number 4, and with what we have here today, wait until after the video and then go back to this. I'm trading yes, and I'll explain to you why here over this video, but Kalshi is genuinely a smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge, and you can close position whenever you want. So be sure to go download Kalshi using the link in the description. Don't forget to use the code right here, DIGESTMLB, to get your $20 bonus. And thank you once again to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. Now, going over where we currently stand, this report came out earlier today that the Dodgers have offered Kyle Tucker a huge short-term deal. That is the extent of what we know. Crazy enough that we're not seeing a price tag here when we know what the offer is for the Mets on the short term, $50 million over what is now believed to be 4 years, when originally it was thought to be 3, and the Blue Jays were the only team to go long-term that were at the top of these sweepstakes. And, I mean, just going back to this one from Kalshi, Baltimore really does not seem to be in it. I don't know where the 9% from them came from, but the Dodgers dropped off a little bit solely because of where the reports have been coming from as of late from the Mets and Blue Jays. But I still feel confident about this for a few specific reasons, and like I said, we're going to jump into that. But I wanted to first go from this for Bob Nightengale. This is where we really stand on the latest information. The Blue Jays have discussed a long-term contract with Tucker that pays him less money per season, while the Dodgers are also lurking with a huge short-term deal. Now, like I said, no information has been released onto what the number is for the Dodgers. I do think it is fair to say, however, that it may be lower than the Mets. $50 million is what they offered Kyle Tucker. That is an exorbitant amount when you're considering not just his market value, but also the situation, how they're paying other players. There's a difference there compared to where the Dodgers currently stand. And when we look at a Dodgers team, yes, everybody would like Kyle Tucker. We all would like Kyle Tucker. He would increase this outfield a lot. But they don't need Kyle Tucker. And that is a major difference compared to these other teams. The Dodgers are going for a 3-peat, something that many teams in the MLB will never have the opportunity to do. And they know, and they trust that their team right now is as good as they need it to be to win another World Series. If Kyle Tucker comes, that's great. That's what it really seems to be the mindset for the Dodgers, making this a significant difference compared to these other two teams. And like I said, at a $40 million market value with a $50 million price tag from the Mets, that would put him in 3rd place on the MLB total AAV, over average is just the simplest way to put it. Only behind, of course, Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. And the Mets would end up having 2 and 3 of the top highest paid players. But we know that's not going to do anything for them. They're not a good enough team to be able to make anything really happen out of that, as we've seen over the past couple of seasons. Now, looking at how things are playing out on the other side of things, we had this from MLB Live yesterday. Once again, take this with a grain of salt because I don't know their specific source, but they say the Dodgers presented Kyle Tucker with a short-term deal, and from what I've been told AAV-wise, it's nowhere near the rumored Mets offer. So, $50 million compared to the market value, we know it'd be over the market value. I think that puts it at maybe around $45 million. That's, I think, is a fair way to just kind of think about this as that. They don't think they have it to be, though. That's what their Dodgers mindset is. The Dodgers are trying to sell Tucker on the Dodgers. So while the AAV feels high on the Mets rumored offer, there is still the feeling that if Tucker goes short term, he will go to LA. And that's the major difference here. And that is backed up by one report from Jeff Passan that we're going to jump into here in a minute. But like I said, the Dodgers could very well use Kyle Tucker. He would be an immediate help. But they don't think they need to. The outfield right now is something that, there are questions surrounding, especially being one of their biggest holes last year. Not necessarily a bad one, but certainly across the MLB, not something that, would be up on the upper echelon. Now, having what could be Andy Pages, Teoscar Hernández, Alex Call to start the year would be suffice. However, Kyle Tucker would immediately make a major difference in this lineup, and especially with trying to sell the factor that, LA would immediately be another chance to win a World Series for them, but also giving that to Kyle Tucker, it makes a lot of sense that they're not trying to flaunt their money to Kyle Tucker when they're trying to sell what opportunities could come out of it. And like I said in yesterday's video, by also trying to get him to have a better season, which would result in him having a higher AAV in years to come. Now, this is what Jeff Passan said, which really emphasizes the fact that the Dodgers are not necessarily going out of their way for Kyle Tucker. They just don't have to be a proactive in the market. They believe they will come to them. Would they like Kyle Tucker? Sure, anyone would. Will they chase him? Nope, not unless it's on a shorter-term deal. Same with any free agent, because really, the Dodgers are at the point now where they believe their players believe they're the best chance at the World Series ring, and runs through through LA, and the calendar is starting to force them to consider options they might not have otherwise. So, like Jeff Passan said, on a shorter-term deal, they will go after Kyle Tucker. They will chase him. But they're not going to fully just rely that Kyle Tucker is their only option, which I think is the smartest thing to do, unlike some other teams across the MLB are currently doing where, they're kind of putting all their eggs in one basket. We have Kyle Tucker being on here, Tarek Skubal still being here, Freddie Peralta being in another report, which we're going to have a video on as well coming soon. Multiple other names, Nico Horner's been out there. There's been so many names, Bo Bichette, that you don't see these other teams in. When you're looking at the Mets and the Blue Jays, it's really at this point Kyle Tucker or bust. It really seems like Bo is going elsewhere. The Phillies are leading that category. The Phillies look like it's just Bo for them, but the Dodgers have such a wide open market still that it makes them have this sort of, upper hand when it comes to the full open market. And especially looking at the roster right now, like Jeff Passan said, this roster, once again, is good enough to go back to a World Series and win it. But will they want help? Would they like help? Sure, everybody would. No matter what the team is looking like, help would only be a bonus for this team. So it's a matter of time now, whether it is hours or days until Kyle Tucker is signed. And I do believe that a yes on this from Kalshi, a trade yes that the Dodgers could get him, is a very good option, especially at 8%. Very good opportunity to, make a lot of money off this, I guess is a good way of putting it. So, with all these reports, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this. Of course, adding Kyle Tucker to this lineup would probably make them be the team with the most left-handed hitters in their active lineup in the MLB. But, of course, with everything else going on, it seems like there are many options that this team are willing to consider. And especially going forward, Kyle Tucker could be the big one. And that could be, a big addition for this Dodgers team. So let me know what you think here in the description or in the comments below. But that's all I got. If you did enjoy, give it a like. Hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.